Hey there, everyone! Welcome back to Discover Top 5, your go-to channel for diving deep into the world's most intriguing, exciting, and sometimes controversial topics. Whether you're curious about the wonders of the world, the mysteries of history, or the most bizarre facts you've never heard of, we've got you covered. Each week, we bring you new, thought-provoking lists that explore everything from the top places to visit, the most fascinating people, the most dangerous situations, and even the most surprising things you didn't know about your favorite countries. Here on Discover Top 5, we don't just give you a list, we provide you with a story behind each point, bringing you the facts, the figures, and the juicy details that make each topic come alive. But before we dive into today's list, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. Trust me, you'll want to stay tuned because we're about to uncover some mind-blowing facts that will leave you speechless. So grab a snack, sit back, and get ready to discover Top 5 like never before. Let's jump right in.
India is a country that resonates globally for its vibrant culture, diverse landscapes, and deep-rooted history. But beneath the bright surface, India finds itself under constant international scrutiny. A significant issue for India is its complex and often tense geopolitical situation, particularly with neighbouring Pakistan. The two countries have shared a long-standing dispute over Kashmir, which has led to numerous military conflicts and continues to strain relations between them. But India's reputation goes beyond this conflict. Internal issues such as poverty, extreme social inequalities, religious tensions, and human rights violations sometimes paint a grim picture of the nation on the global stage. For instance, India's media is often criticized for focusing on poverty and extremism, giving the impression that the nation is struggling with severe issues. While these portrayals don't always capture the entire reality of life in India, they certainly affect how it is perceived internationally. Yet, it's not all negative. India's international influence, particularly through Bollywood, its growing economy, and its historical stance of non-alignment, has garnered global admiration. However, the conflict between these positive aspects and the issues mentioned above contributes to the complex and contradictory way in which India is perceived. Moving westward to Pakistan, we find a country that also has its share of challenges in terms of international perception. Similar to India, Pakistan has endured decades of political instability, security concerns, and economic struggles. One major issue that impacts Pakistan's global image is the perceived involvement of elements within the country in international terrorism, specifically the support of groups accused of terrorism. These allegations have tainted Pakistan's reputation and often led it to be labeled as a global security risk. On top of that, societal problems such as the treatment of women and minorities, human rights violations, and frequent reports of oppression make Pakistan a controversial subject on the world stage. Additionally, the portrayal of Pakistanis in the diaspora, especially in countries like the UK, can sometimes reinforce these negative stereotypes, even though many Pakistanis abroad live ordinary, peaceful lives. Despite these hurdles, it's important to remember that Pakistan has a rich cultural history, known for its natural beauty, hospitality, and warmth. Unfortunately, these positive attributes often remain overshadowed by the darker headlines that dominate the news. Israel's global perception is one of the most complicated, given its pivotal role in the Middle East. Founded in 1948, Israel has been at the heart of geopolitical tensions for decades. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the primary source of international animosity, and the roots of this strife trace back to the early 20th century.
Over the years, Israel's military actions in Gaza and the West Bank have been heavily criticized by some international observers who label them as war crimes, with terms like ethnic cleansing frequently surfacing in discussions. On the flip side, groups like Hamas, which are involved in the conflict as well, have been accused of their own atrocities, adding complexity to the situation. Israel's relationships with other countries in the region, such as Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, have further fueled tensions, and 28 UN member states do not even recognize Israel as a country. This complicated political landscape leads to Israel being a source of constant debate and controversy in global discussions. Iraq, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, has a history rich in culture and contributions to humanity. However, modern Iraq has faced significant challenges following the 2003 U.S. invasion that toppled Saddam Hussein. The aftermath of that invasion plunged the country into a spiral of instability, terrorism, and political chaos. The rise of ISIS in 2014 only intensified the violence, displacing millions and leaving a legacy of destruction that continues to affect Iraq's global reputation. Additionally, Iraq's human rights record has come under heavy criticism, especially in terms of the treatment of minorities and freedom of expression. As a result, many countries view Iraq as a place of violence, instability, and oppression, which contributes to its negative perception internationally. Unfortunately, these portrayals often overshadow Iraq's cultural and historical significance. Iran's political system, which combines a theocratic government with elected officials, is a major factor in the country's negative global image. The concentration of power in the hands of the supreme leader has led to widespread human rights abuses, including arbitrary detentions, unfair trials, and a suppression of freedom of speech. Anyone who criticizes the government faces severe consequences, and dissent is punished harshly, with reports of confessions extracted through torture. Iran's aggressive foreign policy only adds to its controversial standing in the international arena. Its support for groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, as well as its involvement in conflicts across the Middle East, has caused tensions with many Western nations. Furthermore, Iran's stance on social issues such as its harsh penalties for behaviors like consuming alcohol or engaging in same-sex relationships has drawn heavy international criticism. The treatment of women, particularly the strict laws on dress codes, has sparked numerous protests within Iran and attracted global attention. North Korea's reputation is tainted by its authoritarian regime, which has led to a society where citizens live under extreme government control. The government, led by Kim Jong-un, exercises tight authority over every aspect of life, from the media to private matters. The country is infamous for its lack of freedom of speech, with dissent punishable by imprisonment or execution. Reports from defectors and international organizations describe horrendous conditions in North Korean labor camps, where individuals, including children, endure forced labor, torture, and starvation. The country's isolation from the outside world further exacerbates the suffering of its people. In terms of its international image, North Korea is primarily seen as a threat due to its nuclear weapons program and its aggressive stance toward the global community. Economically, North Korea suffers from severe poverty and famine, largely because the government prioritizes military spending over the welfare of its people. While the regime consolidates power, the people bear the brunt of the country's isolation and repression. Saudi Arabia is a country that presents a juxtaposition of wealth and human rights concerns. While the kingdom boasts enormous wealth and is an important player in global politics, it has faced consistent international criticism for its use of capital punishment. In 2022, Saudi Arabia executed 196 people, and many of these executions were carried out for vague reasons such as witchcraft, prompting accusations of unfair trials and human rights abuses. Migrant workers in Saudi Arabia often face poor working conditions, low wages, and exploitation. The treatment of women in the kingdom has also attracted global criticism, with laws restricting women's rights and freedoms, including the strict dress code and limitations on their autonomy. Freedom of speech is another significant issue in Saudi Arabia, as criticizing the government or ruling family can lead to severe punishment, including imprisonment. The United States, often seen as the land of freedom and democracy, has its own set of issues that cause global discontent. The country's role as a global superpower often involves military interventions and political meddling in other nations' affairs, which many perceive as the United States playing world police. This interventionist stance has caused resentment in various parts of the world. Domestically, issues like gun violence, economic inequality, and political polarization have led to criticism of the U.S. both at home and abroad. The country has a high rate of gun ownership, leading to frequent gun-related deaths, while the gap between the rich and the poor continues to grow, with many struggling to make ends meet. Furthermore, contentious debates on issues like abortion, gender rights, and racial equality have divided the nation and drawn global attention. Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, has been at the center of international controversy, particularly with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The country's political landscape is dominated by Putin's authoritarian rule, which has severely restricted freedoms of speech, media, and political opposition. Independent journalism in Russia is a dangerous profession, with many reporters facing harassment, imprisonment, or worse. Russia's international reputation has been damaged by its military actions in Ukraine, which have led to global condemnation and heavy economic sanctions. The government's crackdown on dissent within Russia, as well as widespread corruption, has contributed to the perception that Russia is an oppressive regime. Surveys show that Russia is viewed unfavorably by a significant portion of the international community, particularly in the West. China is an economic powerhouse, but its rise has been accompanied by significant controversies. Human rights issues, particularly in Xinjiang with the Uyghur population, have drawn severe international criticism. Allegations of forced labor, human rights abuses, and the existence of re-education camps have significantly tarnished China's global image. Additionally, China's handling of Hong Kong has led to widespread protests and international backlash, particularly following the imposition of the national security law, which curtails the region's autonomy. China's tight grip on information through the Great Firewall, as well as its global surveillance and espionage operations, has also raised alarm. China's foreign policy, particularly its aggressive stance in the South China Sea and its combative diplomacy, has strained relationships with many nations. The country's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and issues surrounding transparency have further damaged its standing on the global stage.
And there you have it. Folks, another exciting journey through the top 5 things you absolutely need to know. We hope you enjoyed today's list and learned something new. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us out and lets us know what you want to see more of. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what your favorite part of today's video was, or if you have any suggestions for future topics. Your thoughts and ideas mean the world to us, and we love hearing what you think. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you're the first to know when we drop our next amazing list. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks so much for tuning in to Discover Top 5. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember, there's always more to discover. See you in the next video.